Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's facts. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Episode 86 of the Last Round Podcast. Kind of a different guest today. Today, normally we have fighters, trainers, cutmen, but today we actually have the founder and CEO of BOXRAW, Ben Amanna.
How's it going, Michael? Thanks for having me on.
Did I pronounce your last name right?
That's correct, yeah. You got it.
I did?
Right, mate. That's it.
So how's things back in the UK?
Yeah, it's doing well over here, mate. It's been a heat wave. I think the last couple of days, raining on and off this weekend. But yeah, overall, doing great, mate. Thank you.
Right. So we'll kind of, turn the clock back and kind of ask you why and how you got into boxing.
Yeah, I started boxing when I was 12 years old. There was a free class going on at the local boxing gym. And I was getting bullied a little bit at school and sort of on the streets, to and from school. It was purely to try and learn how to fight, just to learn to defend myself, figure it out, go to a boxing gym and teach me how to fight. And I suppose, very quickly it became less about the sort of the fighting element, in the street. It just became, I became addicted to the sport, everything about it, from the, being involved in that environment where everyone's sort of supporting each other, learning that discipline. I was drawn to the sport, but I never would have expected to be drawn in that way. From the age of 12 all the way up to, well, still to this day, but up to 22 years old, boxing the amateur gym competitively. Started working at the boxing gym at the age of 15. At university, went on to start a boxing club there. I grew that to one of the largest societies there. And I've always been sort of very involved in the sport. It was obviously initially just as a fan, then working as a trainer in the gym. I suppose I look back at every single point in sort of history, every key moment, from 12 all the way up to even what I'm doing now. Boxing's always been a part of it, maybe not in the same capacity as now, but yeah, it's always very much been a part of my life. So yeah, I think
some of your amateur fights are actually on YouTube, right?
Yeah, fucking hell, yeah. yeah, don't judge me on them, but yeah, they are. I think some of them.
Who were some of the fighters that you looked up to when you were obviously amateur?
When I was amateur, Prince Nazim was always a big idol for me. He was sort of the one that really, he really got me to enjoy the sort of the artistic side of the sport. I think when I started to learn more about him, the things he was doing or things he did, just how he moved his body weight, still kept that power. I think for him, he really made boxing exciting for me. Obviously, I wasn't around in the era, or sort of growing up in boxing in the era when Roy Jones, but then looking back, those sorts I was interested in sort of the artistic side of boxing, less of the sort of textbook 1-2 amateur boxing. It was always sort of seeing what guys did that was different to the next guy, those like sort of transfer weight, move the head in a cool way, still had that power. I was always drawn to that side of boxing.
And then before you started BOXRAW, I believe that you used to run charity boxing events.
Yeah. So I had that was for a lot of the local boxers at our boxing gym, actually. So we had a few pros come out of there. Troy James, Joe Sheriff, and we were trying to raise money for some local charities called Zoe's Place, and we came up with the name BOXRAW. And at the time, it was a name for the charity events. Never really thought of it as a clothing brand. Sort of years, maybe 9 months later, when the idea of actually for BOXRAW came around, couldn't really think of a name. Spent some time on it, and then decided to run with BOXRAW. So there isn't like a grand plan as to how sort of the inception of the name BOXRAW came out, apart from it was the name of a previous company.
And then obviously you kind of touched on, obviously you had the idea for a clothing apparel. So where did that start? Where did the dream start? Yeah, so it started. So at university, as I said, I had the boxing club. I used to get this kit made with the University of Bristol Amateur Boxing Club on there. I used to sell the kit at, during term. People would come to the classes, pay the membership for the term, buy the kit, and they wouldn't come back to training. And at the time, I was annoyed about it. I'd see them around campus saying, "Look, you can't be buying this kit and then not coming up to training and telling people you're a boxer." And
at the time I was really annoyed. But then sort of years later, I had a car sales business at the time, and I was training for a fight, and I was running down the street in this Adidas tracksuit. I remember it so perfectly, just thinking that I want people to know I'm training for a fight now. And the more I'm thinking about it, there isn't a brand that represented boxers. Then flash back to university, I'm thinking, you know what, boxing's a brand that, but boxing's a sport that if you do it, you're proud to do it. You want other people to know that you do it. And the deeper I sort of delved into it, I'm starting to realize that my whole life has been sort of transformed from the principles that I'd learned within the boxing gym: discipline, mindfulness, love. There were so many elements of it that I thought weren't really shouted about. When I looked at all the other boxing brands that have been there before us, they just seemed to care about the end result. It was the fighting out, the gloves, the boots. They didn't focus on the lifestyle. And for me, it was that journey that got you to the point of fighting that was so much more important than the actual eventuality of the fight. And I suppose I wanted to really change the narrative of it. I didn't want it to be this brute sport that only a few could do, because I had the boxing club at university, and it changed a lot of people's lives there. Some of these people weren't coming because they wanted to compete. I was really a firm believer that you didn't need to compete to be able to reap the benefits of boxing. So, I wanted to launch BOXRAW, to be the reason why the world got into boxing. I didn't want to be just, a boutique boxing clothing brand. It was less about that. It was more sort of purpose driven. Just over 3 years ago, we started with that narrative. It's a boxing lifestyle brand. It was less about the product and more about the story behind it. It served us well today. We still got a hell of a long way to go, but that was the initial sort of idea and inception behind it all.
And you first started on Instagram, right, before you kind of actually released any clothing?
Exactly. Yeah. It took me about maybe a year or so to build the Instagram before, and I had no plans on doing it actually. There's a friend who was speaking to me saying, he took me 2 years to launch BOXRAW, and I think 1 year into it, he's like, so what's your plan for launch? I was like, I don't know, I'm going to launch my website, and people come to me and he's like, no one's going to know where to find you. So we started building Instagram. It was never the initial plan, but I launched the Instagram. The idea was just to build this community, around the sport of boxing. And for my job was to really empathize with the boxers themselves. And because I've been there and done it, it was easy for me to do and sort of build these relationships early on with the boxers and so on. We launched with, I think, 20 or 30,000 followers, which at the time was a lot to sort of launch any brand with, 3 years ago. We already had this community. I mean, don't get me wrong, we still got a long way to go, but it always stemmed from the idea of the community and the people through Instagram, the different boxing gyms that we sort of used to speak to, and the boxers you used to work with and do research with. And it was based around the sport, for the love of the sport. It wasn't built with any intent to try and capitalize on the sport, to try and sell products or make some money or anything like that. It was just a genuine love for it. I think that's the reason why we've grown the way we have.
And when you first started, was it one of those things like Amazon where you were kind of like doing it out of your house, out of your garage, or?
Yeah, mate. Well, fucking hell, I still live with my mum. So I launched out of my bedroom at my mum's house. I had a car sales business as well, so I used to ship orders from the garage. And it's thankfully now it's much bigger than that. But I'm still living at home, still on the grind. It was very much for a year and a half. I was a one-man band. It's only 1.5 years ago we hired our first employee. We're now a team of 24 now. We'll be 36 by the end of July. We're growing at a fast rate now.
And how did you get it, the apparel out to boxers to see and try? Did you just, send them out to fighters for free so they could try it, try the concept?
Yeah. Again, when we started out on Instagram, so probably about 4 years ago when we first launched the Instagram account, like the boxers that you see today, they were on the same level with us. Boxing wasn't big on Instagram, so I'm networking with people now who have got maybe a few million followers now on Instagram. At the time when we started out, they only had a couple of thousand. So me speaking to them it was a lot more easy to do. They weren't being hit by brand after brand trying to do this. So at the start, it was just a case of getting to know them, and they saw the content we're putting out. They can see, this guy's legit. He's not talking out of his ass. He knows what he's talking about. He understands boxing. So it was easy for me to sort of network within the space. So I've grown up in boxing gyms. I've been working one from the age of 15 up until the age of 18 before I went to university. So I knew that space quite well. So it was kind of an easy it was an easy conversation start when I'm speaking to these different boxers through Instagram, and then at some point say to them, we've got some gear launching. Can I send over to get your feedback? And I suppose, I brought everyone into the sort of community side of it. And it was less about sort of business transactions. It was more, I'm doing this. What's your feedback on it? And I think they like to get involved in that process. And still to this day, when samples come in, so many boxes, we don't just launch a product for the sake of launching a product. The guys you see wearing it are involved in the development of it. I really take on board what they're telling me. And we've lost a lot of money in development, products which almost went to market, which have then, been given too much feedback, negative feedback, which has just made me pull it away and, take the hit on it.
Who were the first fighters that you either sponsored or were involved in BOXRAW?
That's a good question. There's a lot, man. There's really a lot because there's no particular order about this. But who I'm going to name? So Jordan Reynolds actually comes to mind because obviously I think you had him on your podcast
last week.
Recently. So, okay. So he's one of the first. In fact, I messaged him from Facebook, and he'll tell you the message I sent him. This is way before launch. He was one of the very first people. Sort of bigger boxers now that you'll see that were there from the very beginning. The whole Olympian team, the whole of Team GB, the whole of Team USA. So you're talking like Joe Cordina, Buatsi, Clarissa Shields, Shakur Stevenson, like all these guys who went through that Olympic phase. We sort of started to network with them while they were at the Olympics. We got them to take over our Snapchat, and I suppose they're sort of young, up and coming. They saw this at the time. They didn't even know what BOXRAW was. They just saw it as an Instagram page. They thought that was up and coming. So we sort of grew with them. Even Ryan Garcia. I remember when we sent gear to him. We were speaking. He must have had like maybe 2,000 followers. We had about the same. So we've both seen each other's rise, and it's cool now to speak to these guys now. As friends, and just look back on the last 3 years and see where they've gone, see where we've come, and all of us have still got so much more to do. But a lot of those that Olympian group in particular, they were very helpful. I owe a lot to them, especially for those early days.
Can you just explain the technology behind the various collections?
So technology with the sportswear stuff, we really sort of go above and beyond with trying to find sort of the lightest fabrics, making sure they dissipate sweat, very quickly. They need to be anti-padding, hard wearing. So we do a lot of sort of testing to do with that, because ultimately that's the most important part for boxers when they're training. And then you're on the opposite side of that. You've got like the sauna suits, for instance. A lot of time went into that and sort of developing the right fabric to make sure nothing can come out of it, making sure it's incredibly tight around the arms, ankle, wrists, necks, ankles, and so on. And then even with the lifestyle stuff, again, it's the same sort of principles. We really try and sort of treat every area of the business in the same way you treat, a training camp, and really try and go above and beyond what the sort of customer would expect. And I think a lot of our sort of ability to scale within boxing and the boxers we work with was by having, a very good product, which was genuinely better than what was currently available, and still is better than what's currently available. The profits don't come first whatsoever. Really and anyone at the company will tell you this as well. What comes first is the quality at the very forefront. At the very end, then we'll start thinking about costs. And testament to that is the fact I still live with my fucking mum and drive a 1999 Peugeot. It's a lot of time and energy goes into what we produce, and hopefully anyone who's got anything will be able to sort of share that testament. And if they don't, then anyone who doesn't have anything, then ask when it does. And we've got a strong sort of loyal customer following. I think they're thankful for what we do in the product space. But I'm saying that knowing full well that we're nowhere where we need to be. We've got a lot more products launching this year, equipment, the whole shebang. I'm taking it seriously. I by no means think that we've accomplished anything that we need to accomplish so far.
The reasons behind the collection names, I think, are kind of boxing hardcores will obviously know. You've got the collections of Whitaker, Johnson.
Good question. Yeah, exactly. So every collection is named after a boxer. A boxer that I've grown up watching or know a lot about historically. I'll give you some examples. Like the Whitaker, for instance, named after Pernell Whitaker. The Whitaker tracksuit has got like a color-on-color tape saying BOXRAW down the side of it. The idea for that was it needed to be named after a boxer who was very elusive. Something with the Whitaker tracksuit is the sort of thing where you get closer, you really start to appreciate it a lot more. The quality's there. It's very versatile, and in the same way that Pernell Whitaker was. Contrasting over to like the Johnson hoodie. Johnson hoodie is a heavyweight, thick hoodie. We needed a boxer that represented that. The Pep shorts. a boxer who was light on his feet, Willie Pep. So I mean, there's a lot more to it, and I can go into a lot more detail about sort of the specifics behind these people. But again, a lot of time, you wouldn't believe the amount of time that goes into naming what products after what boxers. We mood board, get all the benefits of this boxer versus that boxer. And it's we don't need to do that, but it just means that everything has meaning. We're very purpose driven at BOXRAW. We want to be the reason why the world got into boxing. So we do that by trying to showcase boxing in different lights. Even when you buy the products, they come with a little pack of cards, like a trump cards. For instance, you buy the Whittaker tracksuit, you're going to get a collection on Pernell Whittaker. You're going to see his historic fights, some information about him, a quote, a hand-drawn drawing of him. We're really trying to sort of show boxing in a different light than what other brands or sort of even the media would portray it to do or portray it to be. I'm glad you picked up on that. That's a good question. So most people think that the names are just named randomly.
Really?
yeah, they just that's a cool name, and they're like, oh, but that's also Pernell Whittaker, that's his name. I'm like, yeah, we know that. Yeah.
So when you either name the collections or you choose a fighter to work alongside, like you touched on Jordan Reynolds, what is it that you look for? Because when you look at the names, you really have a wide collection of Lomachenko being at the top end, all the way down to say Jordan Reynolds, who was an amateur that's just turning pro, that's probably not currently a household name.
Yeah, I think fundamentally it comes back to that sort of overarching statement that we sort of stand by. We want to be the reason why the world got into boxing. So we do need a mix of these people, because you've got people, the very top end of the spectrum, the high level boxers like Gervonta Davis, Usyk, and so on that we work with, who they bring in that sort of mass market appeal, the wider market into the sport of boxing from the fans' point of view. And you've got people like Jordan who just really inspire people. You go on Jordan's page, it's hard for you to scroll through his page without being inspired by him. He appeals to a younger demographic, so it's less about what mass market media would say their position in sort of the rankings are, and it's more about, are they bringing their audience into the sport of boxing? Are they portraying it in a good way? Are they a good role model for children? Are they boxing? Are they living that boxing lifestyle, for instance? So it's it's less about sort of the if you use the margin of Instagram followers, and more sort of about the impact.
How did BOXRAW really take off? Was there anything in particular that you saw, like a huge rise in orders or traction?
I don't want to sound like a dick when I'm saying this, but I genuinely, I still don't think it's taken off. I'm still working my ass off. Like we're still a startup, man. Like I suppose some inflection points, for the brand. I think the first signing the Lomachenko deal was a big one for us. Moving with Gervonta Davis was another big one for us. At the start of the lockdown, through the pandemic, that has been a big time for us. But I mean, there hasn't been like a big inflection point. I thought, wow, the company's really taken off now. It's just been a lot of hard work from me and the team. We've really got such a hard working team. It's a 7 days a week sort of place. We treat each other like family. It's a very transparent culture. We rub off on each other. There's arguments regularly, but all for the sake of the best goal of the business. It's never personal. We go on a holiday together. We're a close-knit team, and I think that's been really what sort of allowed us to grow so quickly. The people have been, without a doubt, it's been the people. There hasn't been one particular point where I think anyone in the company would say, "Oh, that's the reason why we were able to get to this point now." It's not, it's the collective efforts.
How did the collaboration with Lomachenko come around?
Good question. So this was, I think, maybe eight months after launch. I'm reaching out to every boxer I can. I'm thinking, sky's the limit now. Let's try and sign up as many boxers as we can. And reached out to his agent at the time and asked him to do a deal. He asked me, "What's your budget?" I said, "About $300 per month." He laughs at me. He's saying, "I'm returning down deals for $1 million a year with Reebok. You want me to go out with this?" I'm like, "Bro, I've got that's all I got, man." And he told me to send the gear over, so I did. And then he said, "Look, if you like, see my poster." I said, "Okay, no pressure. I'll send the gear." 3 weeks later, I woke up to a photo on Instagram of him wearing the Pep shorts. And then I think a few days later, he had a fight scheduled for that weekend, and I had a phone call on Thursday. Jumped on a conference call, and they said, "Look, can you get us these tracksuits by Saturday? He really likes them and customize them." I'm like, "Mate, you're crazy. You got 2 days notice. How am I going to get them to you for this fight?" And then we're talking a bit more. I said, look, we really think we can do something with this. I'm like, you're damn right we think we can do something with this. Like, give me another week and I'll come back to you with a proposal. So I went back with a proposal a week later, after the fight, and pitched the idea of the collaboration, and they liked it. Again, once he saw the product, he realized that it was legit. It wasn't like another clothing brand just trying to reach out to him. I think also the interactions we've had, they'd realized that it was very genuine and sincere. And I think that's a big part of it when people say you've got so many boxes, and there isn't a trick. The trick is just to be yourself. Tell the truth. You won't find anyone in the box industry who will say that I've said something and then haven't followed through with it. Like, they're very genuine interactions that I have with these guys. So I think that's been one of the reasons why I've been able to move with different boxes, because what you see is what you get. I'm not gonna do. And I think that in itself is a blessing within the boxing space, because there are a lot of shady people. There's been known to be a lot of shady people within the space. So if you are one of the ones that are being true to yourself, authentic, genuine about sort of what it is we're trying to do, both of us trying to win, not trying to screw the other one over, then you're going to be fine in this space. Has
there been any bad experiences or hurdles you've had to overcome in the first 3 years?
Business, there's been it's hard to look back at it and think that it's like necessarily like a bad thing that's happened, purely because we've always sort of learned from it. I'm not trying to sort of gimmick out the question, and I hate it when I hear that myself, but specific bad ones, there's been a lot of struggles with sort of the warehousing. I think building the team internationally has been like a big struggle, like making sure that everyone can keep the same culture, even going into lockdown. That was really tricky as well, because I'm very proud of the culture we built within BOXRAW. So the moment you move everyone to remote working while also having to try to run a team internationally, it can be very hard. So it's still a non-stop, struggle. If I'm being honest with you, I don't by any means think that I've mastered everything. So yeah, apologies, man. I'm not giving you a straight answer for that, am I? But I can't think of one moment where it's been sort of hard on the other. Again, I feel like I'm in training camp 24/7, man. Like, I'll be working late tonight, be the same thing tomorrow morning, the same thing for the next 7 days, and after that, it's we're constantly trying to push ourselves, man. And again, it's I'm listening to myself say that, thinking, fucking hell, he's giving a generic ass answer, but that's all I've got for you, man. I'm afraid.
Has there been any moment where you've kind of just looked back at how far they've come? Because to me, when you look at the BOXRAW brand, and you've got Gervonta Davis, Usyk, Lomachenko, Mick Conlan, Andy Ruiz, Errol Spence, Katie Taylor, name after name after name, do you ever just sit there and look back and think, man, like, not that we've made it, but look how far we've come in 3 years?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's two things there, right? Because it's not, it happens all the time, by the way. Like, I'm so grateful for the position I'm in, man. Like, I'm working with guys I used to watch on TV, doing business with them. They're wearing the brand, and that feeling that I get when I see a boxer that I've grown up watching wearing it, it sort of makes me want to go even more. So it's not a case of that I become sort of numb to that whole side of it. But yeah, I think seeing the boxers wear about it, seeing the international profile that we've got, and I see customers in the Philippines, when I see customers in Afghanistan, Iran, deep down in Russia, in China, Japan, people all over the world, that's what really sort of gets me. I'm like, wow, there's people, just knowing that I've sort of, because I still design all the products, we've got a design team. I'm still heavily involved in that process. So just, sometimes I have to take a step back and sort of look at that and, see the feedback we're getting coming in. It really means a lot. And I think it's also, to that point, something that I don't take for granted. I don't want to lose that. I think that's the reason why we all work as hard as we do. But yeah, I think seeing that mass market appeal globally, specifically, and then seeing these boxes that we do work with, it's that's probably the number one thing that really sort of gets me up in the morning.
You touched on earlier that when you started boxing, some of the principles of the boxing lifestyle, and you've kind of taken those into BOXRAW. You touched on the mindfulness, love, boxing is science, boxing is art, and boxing is life. Can you just touch on how they kind of correlate into the BOXRAW business?
Yeah, so the three fundamental principles for me of boxing that we've transferred over, as you just touched on, disciplines. So just anyone who's been to a boxing gym, anyone who's ever trained for a fight, forget even training for a fight, anyone who's been for a real boxing session, they'll know how disciplined you need to be able to make it in the sport. You know, that translates 100% directly into the sort of attitude of everyone working at BOXRAW. You know, it's not about how much work you put in. You know, it's about the output. You know, no one cares how hard you're working. It's about what you're delivering at the end of the day. And we've got, you know, even on the front of our door, you know, it says the Lions Den on there. You know, I want people when they come into the office to know that, you know, we're here to work. This is about discipline. You know, this is not, you know, your standard 9 to 5 sort of place to work. We're here trying to shock an entire industry and do things differently, you know, because it hasn't been done before. You know, the stuff, what you see right now doesn't represent sort of where we want to be in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. You know, we've got really high and big, ambitious goals. And that can only happen through discipline. You know, the mindfulness aspect, you know, I think just the general notion of boxing, the concept of sort of hitting a moving object, you know, while protecting your feet, but while moving your feet, protecting your body, protecting your head, while throwing punches back, you know, that's mindfulness in itself, man. Like, you know, I think, and having that understanding that, you know, in boxing, and any boxer will tell you this, you know, that the fight is, you know, it's all about the mind. It's mind games, you know, it's going in there, having someone hit you while you're trying to hit them, while trying to sort of win one over them in the actual round. Like, there's nothing more demoralizing than that, you know, if you're constantly being hit. You know, you're trying to win these points. And I think that aspect of boxing really translated into the company culture of BOXRAW, where just you need to have your mind right. You know, we have, so for instance, one of the rituals we have is, you know, we have morning reading club, and it's just a time for everyone to get their head right, meditation, do some learning. It's completely silent in the office, and it's just a time for everyone to get sort of on the right level before we start a busy day. You know, meditation is heavily encouraged. You know, I do it in the office as well. We do it twice a day, and it's a big part of it because we understand, you know, this is a mental battle as well as just physical. You know, everyone's very big on the gym as well in the office, boxing, working out as well, you know, running and so on. It's who we are. You know, it's embedded into the culture. And on the love side, you know, that's what really got me about boxing, I think, which many people sort of misunderstand, that they go into boxing gyms and they think they're these very sort of intimidating places where you can't be yourself and, you know, people are judging you, but it's the complete opposite. You know, it's the complete opposite. You've got people from so many different backgrounds coming in there. You know, no one's judging you. They're not judging you based on where you came from. They're judging you based on where you can go. You know, so again, it's all based on output. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what sex you are, what sexual orientation you are. I care if you can get the job done. And that's what a boxing gym is. You know, it accepts you no matter who you are and where you come from. They accept you based on your mindset, you know, and that you're all working towards a common goal. And we translate that into the company as well. And also just, you know, we've got a charity called Boxing is Love, where, you know, we're trying to share these same sentiments with the world, you know, and trying to give access to the sport in places all over the world where they wouldn't otherwise be able to get access to the sport, you know, and trying to show that boxing can be used as a mechanism for change. You know, it doesn't have to be this negative thing or even just this thing that people view as a fan sport to watch on TV. You know, it can be something that, because it did this to me. You know, at the age of 12, it took me away from like a life in the streets where I was just this little shit. You know, wanting to prove myself, getting bullied, thinking, okay, for me to stop being bullied, I need to be the bully. You know, boxing slapped all that out of me. You know, and that's what we're trying to do. You know, so again, I think the thing with BOXRAW, it just comes from such a place of authenticity, whereby we're on such a clear path. We know where we're sort of headed. We know what we want to do. We know how we want to spread the love of the sport with the rest of the world, and, you know, hopefully the market will reward us with that in years to come. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's the lifestyle, the boxing lifestyle, sort of broken down.
You touched on, you know, the next couple of years for BOXRAW. So what do you mind sharing the aspirations for BOXRAW in the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, I can't share too much. Apologies, but I mean, it's sort of where we want to do, like, if we understand we're stemming from being the reason why we were going to boxing. Okay, so I want BOXRAW to be synonymous with boxing. I want you to say the word BOXRAW if you think boxing. If you say boxing, you think BOXRAW. You know, I want us to do enough good in the world where people, where the sports will really change now, and this really stems from, you know, the Boxing is Love charity as well. You know, we want to do enough good whereby we can see sort of this effect sort of multiplying, you know, and then other partners coming on board. We're doing it in different countries then, you know, moving across different demographics into even sort of mainstream communities and sort of seeing how we can uplift the community there with boxing. You know, on the product side, it's to really sort of take over the entire boxing space. You know, I really want to, I see the rest of our competitors as the same way any of the fighters, you know, that you interview, they'll see the rest of their competitors competitors. You know, we're here to win. Like, yes, we're nice people. Yes, we have a great company culture, but don't misunderstand the fact that we're here to win. We really want to take over the sport. You know, we want to provide more events, whether it be sort of pop-up events, you know, people being able to get involved in the sport, community outreach with the sport, with the boxers that we work with, and then a lot of sort of technological advances as well. I can't talk too much into this, but different apps, things linking in sort of AI technology. There's a lot sort of planned in here. And we're talking sort of anywhere from sort of 1 year to 5 year timeframes for different products being launched. But yeah, we've got a very strong product team on the back end as well that I'm working with at the moment. So yes, it's exciting times, man.
You have the Boxing is Love Foundation, which is, you know, a concept you're trying to get a gym in every third world country. If you could just kind of tell us more.
Yeah, so we're building these boxing gyms that recycle shipping containers. Reason for shipping containers, it makes for a very scalable model because we can get the shipping containers for free from different companies to donate them. We fabricate the insides. We can build them in one certain location and then we can ship them to different places around the world. So it's certainly the most efficient way for us to sort of scale this model. Yeah, I went to Liberia the first time, I think maybe two years ago. And it's sort of, you know, I don't want to use the cliche thing of saying it changed me. I think it just sort of really made me realize sort of what purpose we've got, you know, as a company, what we owe to the sport. And, you know, it's back to we can't say that we're here to be the reason why the world got into boxing when we disregard one third of the world's population and don't try and get them into the sport as well, you know. So again, it just stems from that. Like we can't, it's you know, it's an ambitious goal to try and say we want to get everyone into the sport. But again, if we disregard those people, then we can't do it, you know. And if we didn't make an attempt at doing that, no one will believe that. No one will believe that what we're saying is true, that this is actually what we really believe. This is my staff wouldn't believe it, you know. If I said, oh, we want to be the reason why the world got in, but then we can disregard these people, you know. There's been times when it's been questioned as well, different advisors like, you sure we're putting so much money into this, and sure we're spending so much time doing this sorts of things when you could be building the business. I'm like, there's no business if we don't have that at the same time, you know. The two go hand in hand, you know. So they're not interchangeable. We don't get to choose when we do this. This is who we are, you know. This is what we do.
I know we've got David Hay, I think Tony Bellew, and some other boxers all, you know, trying to get boxing back into school because obviously, you know, I live in California now, but I still follow the UK, and there seems to be a bit of a problem with knife crime. What's your thoughts on that? Would you be another campaigner that would try to get boxing back into school to teach discipline?
Oh, mate, absolutely. I think it would be the best thing that would happen to British education worldwide. Like worldwide, and I'm not saying that just because of the brand that we're involved with and, you know, that the things that we're doing, but you just need to break it down. You just need to break down sort of where does knife violence come from? It comes from anger, you know. It comes from that sort of internal feeling, and there's no better way out there. It's not counseling, it's not meditation, it's boxing, you know. You give an angry kid something to aim at. You give him a structured routine that he has to follow. You give him that discipline, you know. He understands the mindfulness aspect of it. He'll understand the sort of love that comes from boxing, and you'll change his life, you know. It's a no-brainer for me. I saw it happen in my childhood. I saw it happen in my community. The kids that came into that boxing gym, you know, who came from a bad background, way worse than me, you know, came in, you know, I could tell you stories for days of the types of people with knives and guns and stuff that walked into a boxing gym and it transformed their life, you know. It's a no-brainer to me. So in answer to your question, you know, I'd love to get involved with stuff like that, and it is something we are actually working with. We're working with a few local charities to sort of try and get behind this, and the same in the US actually. So yeah, it's one of our yearly goals actually, which annoyingly has actually been put on standstill because of the pandemic and sort of the uncertainty around sort of government initiatives and so on. But yeah, it's something that we really take seriously.
Has BOXRAW managed to survive the pandemic okay?
You know what? It's been challenging, but it's been the best thing that happened to us. We went into this. So just for sort of context, we have an office in Coventry. I think we have 14 people maybe in the office. We had when we came into lockdown, 14 there anyway, and I think maybe 6 working internationally. 7 working internationally between the UK, Philippines, India, and so on. It really put a big stress test on the company internally. suddenly everyone goes from speaking face to face in the office, and now everyone's speaking remotely, you know, through online apps and so on. And it showed me just how inefficient we are. So it forced us to have to try and fix all these internal processes. So it was a very tough first few weeks. But then we figured it out. You know, we figured out that we needed to focus on what mattered for right now. You know, there was so much uncertainty that we couldn't just sort of try and aim for everything and be so ambitious. And that now is the time to focus. And that in itself, it changed the entire business model that we operate in. You know, we restructured the entire company. We hired 4 more people. We're hiring another 10 more or so over the next couple of weeks, and sort of changing that attitude and using the whole lockdown situation for sort of a point of thinking, you know, what can we learn from this? It changed the whole business. You know, it really changed the whole business. If you had have asked me at the start of lockdown, would we be hiring so much? I'd say absolutely not. You're crazy, man. But no, it forces us to focus, and I think that was the biggest takeaway. It forces us to focus, forces us to evaluate, and yeah, I think we're going to come out of this situation 10 times better for it, man. You know, we've got a bigger team now. People have been pushed to their breaking points. So yeah, I'm very happy where we're at right now.
If you promote fitness and reading and meditation on shift, I'll have a job, Ben.
I got you, man. It's a big part of who we are, man. It's a big part of who we are. And again, we're just trying to sort of break that typical mold of what people think boxing is. You know, it's not for dumb people. You know, it's not for very angry and aggressive people. It can be for anyone. You know, and those principles, they translate to everything in life, man. You know, so it's yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
I think this is probably a good place to I'm trying to think of the question. What upcoming collaborations do you have with other boxers? Any big names that are on the forefront?
Yeah, we've got there's 2 very big names who I can't talk about, I'm afraid, but sort of ones that we've got in the pipeline. I'm sorry to be that guy, but ones we've got in the pipeline right now. We've got something cool launching with Tank. Some cool stuff lines up, some cool bits lined up with them actually. We've got a few more boxers, some currently present in the space, you know, active fighters, some from the past, which, you know, cool stuff that's coming out. That's all I can give you there, I'm afraid. Sorry, Michael.
The BOXRAW products were also featured on the Creed 2 movie, is that right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct.
How did that collaboration come around?
That came about from just persistence, man. So this is, I mean, anyone listening who wants to figure out, you know, how to do some stuff. It doesn't cost money, man. You just need to be on it and just think outside the box. So, man, it was simple. I went onto IMBD, checked who the costume designer was, dropped her a message on Facebook. She didn't respond. Dropped her a message on Instagram. She finally responded, and then, you know, we got speaking. Plugged to her, said, look, you know, I'd love to get the brand in the film. Oh no, sorry. First, I paid her some compliments. You know, told her how much I like the work. Asked her if I could send some product to her. This is over 6 months. This was, you know, playing long game with her. Finally went for the kill. She tells me, "Oh, I'm not on the next film." I was, oh shit. 6 months worth of hard graft of, you know, speaking to you, sending you all these products, you're not on the next one. A few months went by. They're starting filming for the next Creed now. And I plugged again and said, "Yeah, I'd really like to get BOXRAW in this film. Any recommendations?" And yeah, she put me in contact with someone else who was working on set. Back and forth over multiple emails. Finally, I'm allowed to send some products out. Then get told, look, Michael B. Jordan can't wear it because he's sponsored by Nike. But if he sends some products, we can get out an extra. I was like, yo, that's cool, man. That's all I wanted. That was a goal I had and set for myself when we launched the brand. That's all I need. Just get out an extra. Sent them all the gear. Get a phone call at, I think, maybe 11 o'clock in the evening on a Thursday. They're on set. One of the costume directors, somebody's calling me saying, yo, got Michael B. Jordan here. He's seen the tracksuit the extras got, but he wants to wear your one. Do you reckon you can send some out and get here by Saturday? I was like, yes, of course I can. Fired them all the gear over, yeah, and then lo and behold, yeah, a few minutes later, the trailer comes out and he's wearing the tracksuits. Yeah, blew my mind, man. It was it just reminded me sort of, you know, just keep pushing, trying to find different angles in, and it pays off, man.
Was that the Pernell Whitaker collection?
Yes, correct. Yeah, he wore 2 tracksuits in the film, the grey and the wine. Yeah.
See, that's good advice to to anybody that wants to try to get into the apparel world. Do you have any other advice for anybody that kind of wants to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, just make sure you have a clearly defined mission. You know, make sure you know what it is you're aiming for, and try and make sure that at any given moment, anyone in the company needs to be able to say, you know, what are the main priorities right now for the company. You know, be very authentic with people. Don't be out there to try and make a quick buck. You know, that was a big part of my, you know, moving into the space. It wasn't about the cash, you know, and it still isn't about the cash. It's about just trying to build something of purpose. You need to find your narrative. You need to find your niche, because nowadays there's just too many brands promoting themselves through Instagram, and they all just look like the same shit. You know, it's like, what do you actually stand for? What do you believe in? You know, why are you here? Because it's not good enough these days just to be around for the sake of existing to make some cash. You know, you have to be purpose driven these days. So there's that. Educate yourself. Like, just, you wouldn't believe the amount of sort of self-learning, that sort of discipline, not even just for myself, but the rest of the team. Like, we all realize how far away we are from where we need to be. You know, so that's the idea of self-improvement. You know, we're reading. It was compulsory for us to read once a day. You know, it's compulsory for us to send in things into the team, which sort of to dictate what went wrong in the week, what went right in the week, what are the recommendations for the next week. You know, all of us sort of collaborate on that, come together once a week on that. You know, it's very much sort of self-improvement. You know, treat your business, treat how you operate as you're in training camp. You know, I think that's what's really sort of got us this far, is that we just think we're in camp. You know, it's a non-stop. You know, we plan everything down to a T. Sort of how we're going to spend our hours on a Thursday. You know, it's a very transparent culture we've got within the company, which is hard for some people, but it will guarantee you much better output. You know, from the staff that work with you, being very authentic with them. You know, where you're at, what your goals are. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Ben, I just want to thank you for your time on this Sunday afternoon for me, Sunday night for you. If you want to tell people where they can find you on Twitter, Instagram, what BOXRAW have coming up, what Boxing is Love have coming up, the floor is yours.
Yeah, you can. I don't use Instagram a lot, mate. You know, I've just gone public recently though, so I'm at ben.amanna on Instagram. BOXRAW, obviously at BOXRAW. Hit me up if you need any advice in business. I do genuinely like sort of seeing people sort of want to pursue their dreams within business. You know, I'm not saying I'm a finished article, I've got all the answers, but I can hopefully try to point you in the right direction. So yeah, any questions you want to run by me, hit me up, man. Yeah, that's it for me.
The man of mystery.
The man of mystery.
Right, you can find us at The Last Round 12 on Twitter and Instagram, and tune in next week for episode 87. We should have another good guest.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round.